So in this video, we're going to go over a couple of keys that we need to achieve in order to have a consistent low point and an effective attack angle when striking your arms off the ground. The reason this can be difficult often to achieve is because there's certain elements in the swing that we need to have right. There's certain elements that are going to create a steepening, and there's certain elements that is going to create a shallowing effect through the ball. And we need a balance of both of those in order to create an effective low point and attack angle. If a player is struggling with this, often they have too much of one or the other. Either they're hitting down too much, or they're coming in too shallow. Either way, it's not balanced. So I'm going to talk about the two sort of elements here and then how you can achieve it. So let's start with the steepening elements, because these factors happen quite early on in the downswing. So we've got 3 arrows here. The one near the feet, that's going to just sort of illustrate, we can't exactly see the pressure, but we know the pressure is going to shift onto the lead foot early on in the downswing. So pressure shifting to the lead foot. That's going to help the low point land after the ball. It's what we want. That's going to be one of the elements. The other one's the middle arrow there. That's sort of referencing the hip tilt. So we'll see the lead hip is lower than the trail hip, because they've turned that way in the backswing, they've tilted in the backswing, and then in the transition that lead hip is going to stay slightly lower than the trail hip in transition also. So that's also an element of steepening. And then you'll also see the top arrow there, that's the lead shoulder. So the lead shoulder is going to work slightly down early in transition as well. So all of these elements are going to create a steepening attack angle and the low point, which is after the ball, which is what we want hitting golf balls from the ground. So once those steepening elements are in, we're now going to start to see the shallowing elements. And this is where I feel a lot of players will go wrong, is if, let's say, they're trying to hit down on it a little more, hit it cleaner, they often continue on with those steeper pieces without adding in the shallowing pieces, which is so important. So we'll start with this lead shoulder. So we know the lead shoulder's worked down here early in transition. And then what you're going to notice is that lead shoulder is actually going to start to work back up. So the direction of that lead shoulder is now going up. All right, it's definitely not going down. It was going down early in the downswing, and now it's starting to track up. So we can see these circles here as a reference. Lead shoulder tracking up. So this is going to be a shallowing piece. So if we take a look at the pelvis now, we've got a line drawn at the lead side of the pelvis. So we know the steepening elements, the lead hip is going to stay slightly lower in transition. It's going to work down this way. There's also a lateral movement as well. Okay, so we can see that lateral movement of the pelvis as the lead hip staying low. So they're elements which is going to help a low point to be after the ball, steeper angle attack. But just like the lead shoulder, that also starts to work towards a shallowing component. So we'll see that lead hip now, as that sort of lead arm goes past parallel in the downswing, that lead hip and that lead leg are going to start to extend. And that lead hip, just like the shoulder, is actually going to start traveling up now. So lead hip traveling up, left leg extending. So that's going to be a shallowing element. The third piece we're going to look at here now is what the grip is doing and what the hands are doing. So we know the lead shoulder is starting to work back up. We know the lead hip, the lead leg is starting to work back up. And that's going to create a hand path that's also going to be traveling up through the ball. So even though that club head's going to be traveling down, the hand path and the grip are actually going to be moving up through the ball. So when the club reaches this last parallel point in the downswing, what we're going to notice now is the hand path and the grip end of that club are actually going to start to be moving up through impact. Okay, you can see the lead shoulder, the lead hip extending, and that's creating this upward movement of the hands through the ball. But if you watch what the club head's doing, that club head, because those steepening elements were put into the swing early in the downswing, the player is enabled to to extend up through this shot and get the club head to travel down and connect to the ground just slightly after the ball.